Hey, Ray Del Vecchio here from websiteprofitcourse.com. In this tutorial, we're going to build this website that you're looking at here. This is a business template that I put together using WordPress and Divi by Elegant Themes, which is one of the most popular visual page builders. I'm now using it to power all my client websites, and you're going to see just how easy it is to put together a layout like this. So we're going to jump right into this process. And the first step, regardless of what type of website that you want to put together, is that you need to get your domain name and get set up with web hosting. With WordPress, you can install it on pretty much any web host across the web. The two that I recommend are HostGator and SiteGround. So in this tutorial, we're going to use SiteGround since they're hosting most of my client websites. However, HostGator was the first company that I used over a decade ago, and they're a little bit more of an affordable option, and they still have one-click WordPress installation. So what I'm going to do is link up tutorials for both companies to show you how you get started with domain and hosting. Check out those links below, and I am an affiliate for both companies, so if you use my affiliate link, I get a small commission if you set up a hosting account. That is the best way to pay it forward if you found this tutorial helpful. And not to mention, I'm also going to include a link to Divi below, so really you taking action is what helps me create free tutorials like this and also free content for my blog. So here's my thanks in advance, and let's get started with this tutorial. I'm over here on SiteGround under the Websites tab, logged into my account, and you can see a list of my websites here. So I'm going to jump into my demo domain, Site Tools, and this is where we can install WordPress. So from the left-hand menu here, we can open up our WordPress tab and hit Install and Manage, and we'll install a new WordPress installation. So let's get this installation going. And most of the time, you're going to want to install WordPress on your top-level domain. In this case, I'm going to do it in a subfolder because I have multiple WordPress installations on this single domain. So I'm going to create a subfolder called Divi, and that's where our root WordPress installation will be. You also want to create your WordPress admin account. So this is where you put your username and password, and this is what you want to save to be able to log in and build and edit your website. So I just filled this out with a test account, and under the add-on section, I'm going to deselect this WordPress starter plugin. So we're ready to install, and by default, SiteGround does install their WordPress optimizer and security plugin. That's one of the features that SiteGround has that some of the lower level budget hosts don't offer. And now that we got this ready to go, we can click either of these two buttons to log into our WordPress admin area, or we can view the site. So let's do both of these. And this is your dashboard on WordPress. And I can open the website here by hovering over the home icon and clicking Visit Site. And I'm going to open this in a new tab, and you'll see what a really basic default WordPress installation looks like. And this is using the 2022 theme. Now let's go back to the dashboard here. And these two options are for the plugins that SiteGround pre-installs. Like I said, the Optimizer plugin and the Security plugin. And the one thing that I like to do is enforce HTTPS. That's just a secure way to have your website loaded. So if somebody, for some reason, is trying to load the insecure version, it'll just automatically forward over to the secure URL. So I believe we can do that from one of these plugins. I think it actually might be the Optimizer plugin. I'm going to go to the environment, and this is where I can do HTTPS enforce and fix insecure content. Now, if you don't use SiteGround, the nice thing about WordPress is that you can install plugins to do a lot of these features. The one that I would use is called Really Simple SSL. I've used that in a lot of my past tutorials. So I'm going to enable both of these, and I think it might log me out and make me log back in. They give you this warning here, so we're going to do that, and I'll get back to you when I'm done enabling these. Now that we got that set up, I do want to just take a look at my plugins over here. Many hosting companies will just install a handful of plugins by default with your WordPress installation. So if you see any here, you may just want to delete them. All of that tends to bloat your website, so I would get rid of anything that you don't want on this plugins page. You just got to deactivate them, and then once you deactivate, you're able to delete them. With that noted, we can now install Divi. So we're going to go to the Appearance Theme section. This is where I mentioned that we have the 2022 theme installed. WordPress puts out one every year, so you're probably going to see a few older ones as well. When you buy a license to Divi, you're going to be able to download a zip file. So we can just upload our zip right here. We just hit the Upload Theme button, and we can choose it and hit the Install button. So Divi was installed successfully, and we can activate it right from here. Now, the other thing I want to note is that when you're really heavily customizing a theme, it's usually good practice to create a child theme. Now, you don't actually have to do this with Divi. The only reason you might is if you are going to edit the functions.php file. Sometimes you can copy and paste code there but that file is part of the theme. So if Divi sends out an update, that's going to get overwritten unless you have a child theme. I'm going to skip that step since I think most people are probably not editing the functions.php file, but I just want to mention that. And I'm going to add one plugin, and that's called Contact Form 7. Now, Divi actually does have a built-in contact form module. I just prefer using Contact Form 7 because I've been using it since before I even knew about Divi. So I'm going to show you how you can use this plugin to build a custom contact form. And I'll also touch on some custom CSS code that we can use to style it and make it look really cool. So let's activate that. And when we activate this, we're going to have another option on the sidebar here called Contact. And this is where we can create and manage our contact forms. Let's build the one that we're going to use. So I'm going to make a free quote form, and we're just going to put that in the footer of every single page. And with Divi, they do a smooth scroll with a link on the same page. So it's going to look really nice. So they give you a contact form here, an example one that you can start with. The way you build this form is you can choose any of these elements: text, email, URL, telephone number. They give you a bunch more. And it's going to give you this short code, and that's what's going to put in the form element. And then you can also see the label here. So you're going to just see, paragraph text right next to the form. Now, you can also do a placeholder, and that's what we're going to use. I have this code pre-done. So let me go back here, and I'm going to create a new form. And then let me paste in my code here, and you're going to see it's a little bit simpler. And we're using placeholder text so that the label is actually going to be inside the form box. And then the asterisk here, this denotes that the field is required. What we're getting is the client's name, the email address, their phone number, and a short message from them. And then this is our submit button with the text send now. So we can save this, and then we're going to go into the next tab here, which is the mail tab. This is what sends the mail. So you can either have this mail form go to you only, or you can send an email to yourself and also a confirmation to the client by using this mail to option. For today, I'm just going to set up one of these emails. On this form, they tell you the shortcodes that you used in the previous tab. So you can just copy and paste them right from here. You can see that it's showing here your email in this tab, and we don't have that element because we switched it with a different name called the lead email. So I'm going to keep this as is. This is going to send it to the admin account email address, which is probably going to be yours. And if it's not, you can just swap that out to whatever email you want this form sent to. It's being sent from your website with your site title, which you can swap this out with something if you like. For the subject, it's using the site title and the subject line option, which we don't have in the form right now. So I'm just going to change this to roofing quote request. This is the reply to, so you want that to be the lead email. So we'll paste that in. I'm going to copy and paste the code that I have here. It's very similar to this, except that I'm using HTML code to make this stand out a little bit more. So I'm putting in the strong tag, which is going to make these labels bold. And in order to get this to work, you just need to check off this use HTML content type. And you can see that we're including the lead name, the lead email, the lead phone number, and the lead comments, which are all our fields up here that we needed to include. And then I just have a little message at the bottom that this mail was sent via Contact Form 7. So that's all there is to creating this form. So let's save it. And then when you're done with the form, you're going to get the shortcode for the finished form. And this is where you can place it anywhere you want. So we're going to do that within Divi's theme builder in just a little bit here. So the next thing I want to do, I'm just going to upload all of the media that I'm going to use. All the pictures, the logo file, and a couple of graphics. So this is something that you can do one by one. You can go into a post, write a blog post, create a page, and then upload your media there. If you do that, it's all going to be within the media library. So I'll just click the Add New button, and I will drag and drop my files. So we're done here, and I got my stock photos. I got a couple that I edited into banners, and then I got the logo over here, which is just a transparent graphic with white text. And just an FYI, if you look in the description below, I will include a link where you can download all of the assets that we're using in this tutorial. That'll get you set up. I'll also include a README file that gives you all the steps that we're going through so you can duplicate this on your own time. But if you're looking for the easy way, I'll also include a link where you can buy the Divi templates. Those are the export files where you can just go ahead and import it. And with a few easy steps, you're going to be up and running with the entire website on your own platform. We're going to do 3 more things really quickly before we get into Divi. And next up, we're going to look at the WordPress settings. So if we jump into here, we're going to go to our general settings, and this is where you can rename your site title and tagline. So I'll do that right now. You got a handful of other options, and I'm not going to go through every single setting on all of these submenus here. I'm just going to go through the ones that are most pertinent to you. So let's save those changes. The next one I want to show you is the discussion tab, and this is where you can adjust your commenting settings. And what I recommend is you check this off. Users must be registered and logged in to comment, because if not, you might get a decent amount of comment spam through your website. So it's best to just keep that off there. And this is a big one, the permalink section. This is how your URL is going to look for your posts and your pages. You may or may not have this set to post name by default, but this is what I recommend. And the last one is this reading section. Now for this, we're going to need to create some pages, because what I normally do is create a separate page for your home page and your blog posts. By default, WordPress is just going to show your blog posts on your home page, but if you change it to this setting where your home page displays a static page, you can select the pages that you want for each. But in order to do this, I'd need to create the pages first. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a bunch of the skeleton pages with a little bit of example content. Now this is the first one. You can either build the entire layout for each page individually using Divi, but what I recommend is for your post and your page content, I just like using the default WordPress editor, and we're going to just insert this into the Divi theme builder, and you'll see exactly how we do that to get our design. So this is the first page. I'm creating the home page. I'm just going to publish this. This layout is going to be built entirely with Divi for the home page, but for all the inner pages, I'll paste in some sample content. And like I said, I'll get back to you once I publish the rest of these pages, and we can go back to the settings and edit that. So now I got all the pages done here. I got the home page, about, blog, photos, services, and this privacy policy is just in draft mode right now, so we're not going to worry about that. I'll just go back to the settings reading section, and this is where we can now set our home page to the home page that we created and the post page to the blog page. So let's save that. And the last thing I want to do here before we get into Divi is create our main navigation menu. So we're going to go to Appearance Menus. I can create a menu name. I'll call it Main Nav. I'll hit Create Menu, and then we can view all our pages. And I'll just add all these pages to the menu. Once they're on here, you can drag and drop to reorder them, and you can also indent them to do a sub-menu. So I'll change the order of this, and I'm going to add one more link here, and that's going to be to the quote form. So for that, we're going to do a custom link. And the URL for this is going to be hashtag CTA. The hashtag means that you're pointing to an HTML ID. So we basically need to set an element within our Divi theme builder to have an ID CTA. That's going to be our contact form. And the link text can either just be quote, free quote, get quote, anything you want there. So let's add that to the menu. And we'll save our menu. And now we can start getting into the Divi settings. Let's jump over to the Divi theme options. And the first thing is when you buy a license to Divi, in order to get updates, you have to put in your API key. So you'll want to go over to the Updates tab, put in your username, create an API key, which you can do separate API keys for yourself, for your clients. That's an easy way to manage which websites get updates under your single account. Then we'll go back to the general section here. Because we're using the theme builder, a lot of these settings don't matter. But the one that does is the color scheme, because when we go and start building with the theme builder, it allows us to build everything within our color palette. So I have a color palette here, and I'm also going to create one shade darker of the red, which we're going to use for the border of the buttons. So I'm going to copy these hex values into the Divi color scheme options, and I'll get back to you when I finish these. So I got this updated. I'm also going to disable a bunch of these things. I don't think this matters, like I said, because we're using the theme builder. I'm going to keep Google Fonts because our default font, I believe, is loaded with Google Fonts, but the rest of these I'm going to disable. And I do have some custom CSS for the contact form, but I'm going to wait to paste that in. So let's save these changes. And that's all I'm going to go through on here. Once you're done building your site, then you can get into the performance optimization side of Divi. Another good feature is the integration tab. If you need to copy and paste any code to the head or the body of your website, this is where you can do it. Now let's go into the theme customizer, which this is also linked up to the appearance customize section. They're the same thing. So if we click the theme customizer, you'll see how it loads our customizer options, and this is where you can set your defaults. So we're going to edit just a handful of things here. We'll go into the general settings, and you will notice that the site identity is tied into the title and tagline that we set before. You can also set your site icon, which that's what appears in the browser tab. What I'm going to update is the accent color because it's using this blue by default. So we're going to use our gray. Then I'll go into general typography. We're going to make our body text size a little bit bigger. We're going to do 16. We'll make the line height also a little bigger at 1.8. We'll make the header text size larger at 42. And you can see how all of these settings are updating the live window over here. We'll make our header line height 1.1. Make sure that the header is bold. And then we'll go ahead and change the body link color to our red, along with changing the text color to our darker black or charcoal. So we'll do that for both the body and the header. So those are all the settings that we'll customize in the typography section. And the last thing that we're going to update here is the buttons. So we'll just go into the buttons and make sure that our button uses our contrast color, which is that red. And we'll make our button a little bit bigger. Obviously, we have no buttons on this page, so you're not going to see these changes until we add a button to the Divi theme builder. But we'll change the text color to white, the background color to red. And right now, this is set to a transparency of 0, so it's not actually showing. I have to drag this up all the way to 100%. We're going to do a border of 3. We're going to make the border color this darker red, and I will reset the border radius. We're going to make this square, so I'll set that to 0. We'll make our buttons bold and also uppercase to give them a little contrast to the body text. And you can choose your button icon. Right now, it's just using this little side caret, so that's fine with me, but if you want to update that, you can do it by going through this icon set. I like all these settings. We just need to go into the hover style, make sure this is set. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to do white for the text color, but we're going to make the background color and the border color this darker red. And I believe that we're going to be good with the customizer. So let's publish this here. And now with the entire framework in place, we can actually get to building with the Divi theme builder. I know probably been waiting for that point, but this is the order that I like to do things. I feel it's a little more structured and makes things easier once you actually get into the theme builder. So what the theme builder does is it allows you to create a custom header, body, and footer, and then you can assign these templates to certain pages. So let's get building. I'm going to start with the global header that we're going to use on every one of these templates. So we'll jump into the global header and we're going to build it from scratch. But if you do have any pre-built layouts, like the exports that I was talking about that you can purchase in the description below, you can just import templates using Divi. This is another reason that I like Divi is because you can start building on your own work, and then over time it becomes easier and easier to create these designs. So you're going to get this little pop-up the first time for the Divi tutorial. I'm just going to click the Start Building button, and I'm getting a little warning here for unsaved changes. I didn't do anything, so I'm just going to discard that. And we can go into the global header now. So we have a section, and this is where we can add a new row. So let's do that. And in the header, we're going to include the logo on the left and the navigation menu on the right in a single row. So I'll pick one of these divisions where the right side is a little bit larger so that we have more room for the menu. Let me start with this one and see how it looks. And before I insert the logo, I do want to change the background color because the logo is white, so you're not going to see it once I upload it. So let me change the section color here. I'll go into the settings, and you'll see when we have our color scheme, it makes it really easy to change this. So we're going to add the background color and make this our red. And then I'll go over to the design tab, and this is where I can edit a few other settings. I'm going to go into the spacing, and I usually adjust the padding or the margin within a lot of these either sections or rows. So for this one, I'm going to make the padding a little bit smaller, I think. I'm going to make it 10 on the top and 10 on the bottom. And I can link them together by clicking that button right there. So now if we adjust one, that they'll automatically update together. And I'm going to include a border bottom on this as well and make it that darker red color. So I can select the border bottom option there and make the border width either 3 or 4 pixels. I think we'll do 4 just to make it stand out a little bit. And right now it's black, and we can change that to our darker red. So it's very subtle. This color was actually 10% darker than the standard red within our color scheme. I just used an online generator to create that hex value. And if you'd like, you can also create a little box shadow. I'll select this one where it's on the bottom for the most part, and then we can adjust these settings here. I'm going to make the vertical position 0, and I'm going to increase the blur strength so it doesn't look like a separate border right there. So I think 5 pixels looks good on that. And then you can adjust the spread to make it a little bit tighter. So I'll bring that down to 3. But I think that's good for the section. And now we can upload our logo in the left here. So I'm just going to search for image to find the image module on Divi. And I'll go within our media library to find our logo. And now we got it there. For now, I'm not going to link this up, but you'll want to put in your homepage link on here. So I'm just going to fill this in with the hashtag. And then I'm going to add one more element below here, just a text element, call to action with a phone number. So I'll search out for the text module, and we can edit our text right from here. So now I got the phone number in here, and you can also link this up so that it brings up the phone app. To do that, you just need to use the tel prefix. So this is what does it right here. If you put tel with the colon and then the phone number, if you're international as well, you would want to include a country code within this phone number. But that's a good way to increase the conversion percentage of your website. So right now, the link is blending in, you can see, with the background color, so you can't see it at all. So we got to go over to the design, and we're going to center this text. And within Divi, what I like about it is that they have a dark scheme and a light color scheme. So you can adjust your text color across the board by changing the setting down here. So I'll change this to light, and that'll give us our white text instead of black. I'm going to center it. So for this one, I'm going to make the font color a light gray, just so it contrasts the logo a little bit. I'm going to make it bigger, so we'll go 24 pixels. And I want to edit the link style on here so I can jump over to this tab and change this color to white. And that'll show our phone number now. So that looks good to me. And I actually think I'm going to make this italic as well. So I'm going to go back to the text tab. So let's save this, and we'll add the menu in to the right. So I'll search out menu. Actually, you can see up here that this isn't the correct menu. This is just showing all those pages in the categories. So I think if I just unselect this and select it again, it should work. And yeah, it's showing the correct menu now. It's a little glitch, but it always works after I do that step. We are going to center this. We're obviously going to change the background. Right now it's white, so I'm just going to trash this. We have a transparent background now. And let's go back to the design. We can go into the menu text. So we got the active link color. We'll make this white. The menu text color, we're going to make it black. I want to make this text size slightly larger at 16 pixels. And we're also going to make it uppercase. And to make it look a little bit more centered, we're just going to add padding to the top. So we can go to the spacing. So let's try 40 pixels, and that looks a lot better. And I'm not sure where the padding bottom is. Let me see if I add something to this, if it adjusts. So this might only apply to mobile. So let's actually jump down to mobile size and see how things look. And I also want to make the background menu here dark to contrast the body. So let's go back to the menu text. Actually, the drop-down menu one, this should do it. So I think this controls the drop-down for secondary menus along with the mobile menu. So this is what we want to edit. So let's do the mobile menu background color, and I'm going to make that dark. We'll make the mobile menu text color light. The gray is our accent color. If I go into the icon here, this is what we can change, the hamburger menu icon color. So we'll make that dark, and I'm guessing it'll look nice on mobile as well, so we don't have to do anything there. I may want to adjust the padding on this a little bit. There is a lot of padding above and below this icon. Let me go back to the spacing and see what adjustments I can make to that. So if I reset this to 0, that looks a lot better. And let me adjust the padding top on tablet. Once we get that mobile menu, I want to drop it down from 40 to, let's see what 20 does. And I probably can even go lower than that. I think there is a little padding bottom on the paragraph above it. So 15 looks good to me. So now I think we look good on all these devices. And actually, I forgot to center the image. You can see here it's a little bit funky because it's aligned to the left. So let me just jump into the image module, make sure I center that. And I think that should fix our problem. Yeah, we're good to go now. This header is basically done. So let's exit out of here and make sure we save these changes. And then we can move on to the global footer. So the first thing that we're going to add here is our contact form. So let me add a new row. We'll do one column. And for this, we'll add an icon at the top. And since this is a quote form, let me find something related to mail. So I like that one. So let's edit the section background color. And on this one, I'll add a gradient. So let's change it there. And I'm also going to make this circular as well. So let me edit that down here to the gradient type. And I'll make this one the same color. And I think I need to edit the transparency of the first gradient stop. So let's bring that down to, let's say, 85%. And then I'm going to change the icon color to a lighter color so that contrasts a little bit more. So let's go into the design for that. And we can select our light gray, DDD. Now I'm going to reuse this icon in a couple places. So what I'm going to do is set all these settings and then make it a preset. You can do that up here. You can see that every module that you have is going to have a default preset, but you can adjust your preset to match your website and then add it here. So that's what we're going to do. Let me edit a few more things before I do that. I'll reduce the icon size. Let's say 50 pixels. Let me add a little bit of a margin bottom to it. Make that 15 pixels. I'm going to add an animation too. So let me go down to the last tab here, animation. And the one that we're going to use is the bounce. So you can see that when I selected it, it just happened over there. For this, we're going to make the animation duration slightly less than a second. I'm going to do 650 milliseconds. The delay, I'm going to make 350 milliseconds. And I'll make the starting opacity 50%. So that's my icon preset. We can go up here and save that now. Click Add New Preset. And I'm going to call this Small Icon Bounce. And we could add this preset to default. If you end up using this a lot, you could do that. So we have that saved now. Let me just save everything here. We went from the preset now to the module settings. So let's add a couple text modules here. I'm going to add the heading. We'll make it an H1 element. And I'll call it free quote. So let me select this and choose heading 1. And then we'll go into the design, and for both of these, this one and the next paragraph text, we're going to center them and make them the light text color. So that's good. And then we'll add the next text module, which will just be a little paragraph telling them what to do. And this will be standard paragraph text. So let me copy and paste this, and that's good. And the last thing we're going to add here is our contact form shortcode, which I don't have right now. I got to grab that. So let me go do that, and I'll come back to you right after. For this, I can just add a Divi code module, and we'll paste in our shortcode here. And you're going to see here that it's unstyled. I do have to add CSS code, which is going to give us all of our design to make it look a lot nicer than this. But let me also make sure that this is centered. I think you can center the text here. Yeah, so that's good now. So we got a couple more sections to add here, a few content blurbs, and then the copyright area. So the next one, we're going to do a regular section that has 3 equally spaced columns. We're going to make this background dark as well, but we're not going to make it our darkest setting. We're going to do slightly lighter than that. So let's edit this and go up to, let's say, 333. And then for this one, we're going to add an H4 heading. So let's add a few more text modules here. The first one here, I'm going to have social media icons. So I'll put the title Connect With Us and then make it H4. I'll go over to the design and make it the light color scheme. And this text, I'm also going to make it uppercase to contrast the text that we're going to put below it. For this, I need to edit not the text, but the heading text. And I'll jump into the H4, and we can make it uppercase. And I'll just duplicate this and then drag and drop it to the other columns. So let me duplicate it twice. We'll drag this one to column number 2. And make this one column number 3. So now let's add our content beneath these titles. So for this, we'll add social icons. And since this is a local business, I'm going to remove Twitter and I'm going to add House, which I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but this is kind of like Pinterest for home remodeling. And then you edit your link down here. Right now, I'm just going to put in a fake link. And then we'll add Yelp, which Yelp is more for restaurants, but there are contractors on there. It is a local business kind of website. And then the last one, I'll add Google, which you can link to their Google map. And I'm going to make these slightly larger. We're going to go into the icon size, and we're going to use a custom icon size. Right now, it looks like it's 16, so we're going to move this up to 26 pixels. And then I'll just paste in some text for the About Us page. We'll add another text module. And actually, I'm just going to leave this text here. This is going to be the fake text. And I'll just edit the color scheme again. And then the last section here, I will add another text module so I can paste in the address. And we're also going to edit the link color on this to make it slightly lighter red. I'm going to make this bold, and I'm going to link up the phone number like I did before. So let's do that. I got that copied here, so I'll paste it in. And we're going to change this to the light color scheme as well. And you can kind of see what I mean here, that the red is a little bit dark. It's just going to look a little better if it's lighter. So I'm going to edit this link color here over in the text settings. I'll click the link tab, and I can paste in the link text color. So you can see how that lightened up just slightly. a little bit more contrast. So let's add this final section. We're going to do another regular section, one single column with one text element. And to get the dynamic text, we have to click this little icon here. You can't really see it as well with the text in there, but if I remove it, it's this icon here. And I got the little Grammarly icon. This is a third-party program that I use, so don't worry about that. But this is where you got to click here, this little plus button here. And we can add in the current date. And then we have our text before the date and after the date. So let me paste in this copyright text with the icon. And then I'll just do all rights reserved after. And you want to make sure you have the spaces in. So I got a space before that all. And I got the space after the C icon. And then we got the date format. So you can see down here, it's inserting the full date, including the month and the day. I want to change that to the custom format, which is just a year, which is uppercase Y. So now that is good to go. And I just got to edit the colors, make this background our darkest black. And I'm actually adding the text background color. That's a mistake. So let me delete that. I'm going to make this light text. And then I'm going to go into the section now and edit this background to our dark black and go back into here and center this. And if you want to make this a little skinnier, you can edit the padding. It looks like we got a little padding here on the row and also the section. So let me edit the section padding. I'm going to make this much smaller. In fact, I might even set it to 0 on the top and the bottom. And there you go. I like that a lot. And we're actually going to make this text smaller too. I'm going to make this maybe 13 pixels, 14 pixels. I think 14 looks a little better. So I like that. So our footer is done as well. We can now start building the body content. Let's actually take a quick look at the website now that we have the header and the footer done. And there you go. This is the content that we need to build right here. But we got our header and we got our quote form and our footer. And the next thing that we're going to work on is the homepage layout, since that is the most complicated. And once we get that in place, it's going to be really easy to finish the last couple inner page templates. We're back here on the theme builder, and we don't have a global body right now. I'm going to do that after I do the home page. So let's add a new template. And this is where you can select where the template's going to apply. So right now we're going to select home page, but you can see how you can build specific templates for all these different things like pages, children of pages. We're going to do one for the blog and blog posts. And if you'd like to go even deeper than that, you can go into the archive pages. And then when you install Divi, they create this custom post type projects, which we're not going to use. So let's create this template. We're going to use the global header and footer, and we'll add our custom body. And the first thing that we're going to add to this body is a big image banner with a call to action button. So let's add a new row, one column. So let's add the text module first. So for this website, I just picked a random town, and that's Washington, Illinois. But we're going to make this one an H1 since this is our primary headline. That's also why I included the keywords roofer and Washington in there for SEO purposes. And we're going to make this center and light color scheme, and then we'll add an image background to the section. So we're going to save that, and then we'll go into the section, and this is where I will add my background image. I can click over to this tab here, and this is the one that we're going to use. So if we scroll down a little further, we can update the background image blend. So instead of doing normal, we're going to do an overlay, and I need to add a black background color. So we'll go back to the paint bucket tab and select our color, and now you can see that the image is blending in a little bit better. I do want to drop down the transparency a little bit. So let's set this to 0.75, and then I want to add padding to the section so we see more of this image. So let's go over to the spacing. Let me link up the top and the bottom padding, and I'll try 50 pixels. And that actually made it smaller, so we want to go a lot larger than that. Let's double it, go 100. So let me add the other elements here. We'll add another text module. This will be paragraph text, and I'll paste in our text, go over the design tab and update it. I want to make this text a little bit larger. We'll bump it up to 18 pixels. And just so it contrasts a little bit more, I'm going to add a text shadow. Let's use this last one here that's at a 45-degree angle under it. And I'm going to make the shadow color our black. And then we can add our button. Now, this is something with Divi. A lot of times you'll get this plus button that's hidden because I think it's showing up right under this row button. So we're going to add our button in between these two, and then I'll just drag it below the paragraph text. But now that we got our preset styles, this button's going to be ready to go, and we can just make it free quote. And we're going to link to our CTA ID, and then I'll center it. I forgot to do that. And then let me drag and drop it so it's below the paragraph text. I'm going to set the max width on the row. So let me jump into the row. We'll go to design and sizing, and this is where we can set our max width. And I'm going to do something like 750 pixels. And the other thing I want to do is just add a little bit more padding. So let's go over to the spacing, and I'll adjust the padding bottom. Let me do 20 pixels, and I think a little bit less than that looks nice, 15 pixels. Let's just save this first, and then we can move on to the next section. And that'll be 3 columns with blurbs. So let me add a new section here. We'll do another regular section, 3 columns. This one will have a white background, so we don't have to edit the section background color. And we will use the blurb one. We don't have to search it out since it's right there for us. And with the blurbs, you can either use an icon or an image. We're going to use icons. And for this title, I'll put residential roofing. And if I go down, I will be able to select the icon instead of the image. And for this, I'll search out home. And for these blurbs, I'm going to center them. So let's go over to the design. We'll go into the text to center it. And then within the heading text, the title text here, I'm going to make it uppercase. So that looks good to me. And then I'm just going to duplicate this and edit it with these next 2 columns. So for this middle one here, I'll do commercial roofing. And we'll search out an icon for office, and I like this building one here. And in the last one, I'll just put friendly local with a person icon. This section's done. That was really quick. The only thing I might do here is maybe add a little bit more padding. So let me link up the padding here. I'm just going to do this visually, which I normally don't edit padding visually. I like to go into the settings, but I'm going to make this 65 pixels. So that's 2 sections down. The next section that we'll add here is going to be a simple headshot and one-liner where you can put the owner of the company or maybe a customer testimonial. So let's add another 1-column section, and we'll insert our image or headshot. So I'll select this one of me right here. I'll center it, and then I'm going to change the background color to our light gray. And I think I'm going to do a gradient instead of just a plain background. So let's add our gradient. We're going to make this one circular just like the other one. And we'll make the middle our light gray, and we'll make the outside just slightly darker than that. So let's make this BBB. And again, it's a very subtle gradient. So let's save that, and we will add 2 lines of text. The first is going to be our quote. And you could make this block quote style, but I'm just going to leave it paragraph text, and I'll do the styling within the design tab over here. So let's paste in our quote and go over to the design tab where I will center it. I'm going to make this much larger. We're also going to make it bold. So let me center it first and then go up to the text size. And right now it's 16. I'm going to bump this up to 36. And we're going to make it italic as well. And then the next line is just going to be our byline. So let's add in another text module. This one I'm also going to make slightly larger. I'm going to do 18 instead of 16, and I will center it. And then we just need to drag it under our quote. So this section is now done. The next section is going to be 2 columns, and we're going to link to the photo gallery. So let's add in this section. And I tried to do this in a couple ways. The one that worked for me, and is not necessarily the best way, but instead of using an image module, I'm using a background image within this first column here. So let me add that, and you can't access the column directly. You have to go into the row settings, and then you can go into the column settings from here. So let me go into the column settings, and I'm going to add a background image. And we'll choose this one down here, the first stock photo. These are all free stock photos that I got from pexels.com, which I'll link to in the description below. And right now you're going to see it's not showing, and that's because we have no content in here. So there's no height to this column. So what we have to do is add a custom padding. I'm going to go over into the design tab here for the column and into the spacing section. We're going to add a top padding of 450 pixels. So now you can see we have our image. But I want this full width. This gets cut off at a max width. I also have the section padding here, which I want to eliminate. So let me go into the section. I'm going to set the top and the bottom padding to 0. And then I'm going to go into the row settings. And I will go into sizing. And I'm going to make this width 100%. which it doesn't look like that affected anything, but I do want this row to be 100%. We're also going to set the max width, which right now it's set to 1080. We're going to set this to 100% as well. So we almost got it looking correct. I just got a little spacing up here that I got to deal with. This is also the row padding. So I just got to go to the spacing within this row and set the padding top and bottom to 0 as well. So now we got that looking correct. And this image doesn't butt up against the middle of this column here, but that's okay. I mean, it's just a little space, and this is going to be white anyway. So let's start adding content to the right side. And the first thing we're going to add is an icon, and we're going to use the preset that we did earlier. So I'm going to search for a hammer. We'll pick that, and then we can change our preset to the small icon bounce. And now we got our styles done there. So that's how presets work. You can see how you can use that across other modules if you'd like. And then I'm going to add a heading, a line of paragraph text, and then a button. So we'll add 2 text modules. The first one I will make a heading 2, and then we'll center it. We'll add a paragraph text module below that. And I'm going to leave that just the way it is. We're not going to edit anything on that. And then we'll add a button, which is going to go to one of our inner pages. So this text will say view gallery, and then the link, add in the hashtag to fill that out, but you can copy and paste whatever link you'd like here. And all we got to do is center this. And this section is basically good. Obviously, the only thing I want to do here is add some padding to the top of the column. So let me go into the row settings. We'll go into the second column. And let me add some spacing here. I'll do 100 on the top. I also want to add some to the bottom. We're going to test this on mobile, so I may need to adjust this, but let me do 100 on the bottom and see if that works. And I'll also add a left and a right padding of 50. And to me, because we do have that extra space on the left side here, or on the right side of the image, I probably don't need the left padding. So let me actually set the left to 0. I'm going to unlink these now. I did that before. Let me look at what it drops down to on mobile, and we're probably going to have to adjust the padding on a few of these things, both the image and the content. So when we go down to tablet size, you can see we have our full image. Let me jump back into this here. I'll go into the first column, and we'll do some mobile styles on the padding. So I just got to click that icon right there. I want this to be a little smaller on tablet, so let's do 350. And the same is going to go for mobile. When we drop down on mobile here, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. Let's do 225. So now that image looks good on all these devices. Let's take a look at the second section here. So you can see this is a little bit offset now. So let me go into the second column. I can't remember if I was in that column already. We'll jump over to the spacing here, and let me hit this mobile styles, set both of these to 50. And then we'll drop down to phone size. And everything looks good here to me. This section looks good. I could use maybe a little more line height on this testimonial because this text is larger. So let's go over to the design on this. And I'll set the line height. It says 1.8, but that's definitely not 1.8. I bet if I drop this down, it's actually going to increase. Yeah. So I've noticed that happens sometimes. The default that shows on here, if it's grayed out, it's not always the one that's applying. So I'm going to make this 1.3 EM. The blurbs, they drop down pretty nicely on mobile without having to customize anything. And it looks like the same goes on this top section here. So our homepage is almost done here. I got one more section, and this is going to be the easiest one because, again, Divi has a built-in module for Google Maps, but instead of doing that, you can just embed an iframe. Let's add a full width section here, and this is just going to be full width code. All I'm going to do is paste in the iframe code that you can get from Google Maps when you share it. So the only thing that you'll want to do here with this iframe code is you'll see the width parameter and the height. So I set these specifically to width 100% and height 600 pixels. So let's drop this down on mobile and see what it looks like. And all this looks good. And the nice thing about doing the iframe is that they automatically add this little control in here to use control scroll to zoom. That way, if you're scrolling down the page, you don't get stuck on this map and zooming in and out, which has happened before. And one other feature is that, let me go into the module element. If you look at the code here, we also have a tag here called loading equals lazy, and this helps your page load a little bit faster. All the core elements on your page are going to load before this iframe, which is going to load last when somebody scrolls down and actually reaches the map within their browser. So until they see it, this is not going to load. But we're completely done here with the homepage layout. Like I said, this is the most complicated, so the rest of this tutorial should be pretty simple. We're going to use very similar layouts for the other pages. So just make sure that you save it like I did. We can exit out of here and make sure you save up here too. How about we take a quick look at the website? Got it open in another tab here, and you can see our homepage design completed. There's a few little things that I noticed here. The white space below the image. We got a little white space below the map. The other thing I forgot is the CSS for this. So let me copy and paste the CSS code to style this contact form. We'll go back to WordPress, and if we go to Appearance, Customize, and to the additional CSS tab down here, this is where we can paste in our CSS code, and there you go. So now I got this contact form styled, and I'm not going to go through this line by line, but I will include this within the resources that you can download from the description below. This is the contact form code right here, everything below this line. So I'm basically styling all the input forms. And then I also have a couple more styles up here. I'm including CSS to make links underline when you hover over them, because I don't think that Divi does that by default. So I got the link in the footer here. If you hover over this, you'll see how that underlines now. And then the last thing here is the highlight. If you want to highlight a piece of text, you can wrap it in this HTML element mark. And then I'm setting the background color to a yellow. That's all that is. So let's save this. We'll publish it and just refresh the page over here and make sure that everything looks good on the quote form. So now we can move on to the global body. If I exit out of here and go back to the Divi theme builder, we can add our global body, which this is going to be used for most of the inner pages. So let's click into here and start building this. So for this design, what I'm going to do is a background image section. So we're going to make a full width section. Right now, this is giving us a regular section to start with. So I'm just going to add a new section here, full width. We're going to do full width post title. And let me just save this right here, delete this blank section, and then we can start editing our full width post title. And I'm only going to use the post title. Right now, this is also showing the meta information and the featured image. So let me drop down this element section, and I will unselect the meta and the image. We're going to make the background color black and then change the opacity. Let's make it 70%, and then we'll add our background image. So I have a wide image for this one. This is 1800 pixels by 480. And then we're going to change the background image blend to multiply. And we'll also adjust the background image position to top center instead of center, so it starts at the top of the image. Let's edit the title now. So we'll go into design and jump into the title text. We're obviously going to make this light so it contrasts the dark background. We'll center it. We're going to make the font size a lot bigger. So this is 26. We're going to make it, let's say, 68 pixels. And obviously, this is a really long title. Most of the page titles are going to be one word, so that's why I'm making it this large. We can add a text shadow to it. And let's also edit the padding. So we'll go into the spacing. So the top and the bottom are 50 pixels. Let me link them together. So now that looks even. And I think this looks good. Let's take a look at mobile, see what happens there. So let's save that right now, and we'll move on to the next section. And for this section, we're going to do our content on the left with a sidebar on the right. So we'll do a regular section, about 2/3, 1/3. And we're going to add another post title content module here. But for this one, we're going to just do the featured image because we obviously are displaying the post title up at the top. And because this is going to be used for the pages, but not the blog posts, we don't need to show this meta information. So you can set the featured image from the page. And then below that, we're going to put the post content module. So this is going to be all the WordPress page content. So this gives you an example of what the content's going to look like. You have the headings, you got a link in here, you got a block quote. So the only thing I'm going to edit here is the block quote text. I just think this looks way too similar to regular text. So if we go into the design text and choose the quote tab, so we're going to make the block quote text color 666. The border, our lighter gray. Right now it's 5 pixels, so we'll double that to 10 pixels. Let's adjust our font size. Right now it's 14. We're going to bump that to 24. We could change the line height. 1.5 is usually a pretty good standard line height. The other thing I'm going to do is just center the headlines. So let me go into the heading text. And I'm just going to go through all of these, H1 through H6, and center them. I'm going to save this. And the last thing we're going to add to each page here, because this is a business template, we'll add a little call to action. 2 text elements. The first one's just going to be the paragraph text, and the second one's going to be a clickable phone number that's larger. So this is going to be our line of text, and I will link up the send us an email to our contact form. So that URL is just going to be #CTA. We can make all of this italic, and I'm going to center it. Then we have our next text element. We'll link up this with the tel prefix so that it automatically loads the phone app, just like the other one we did. And then we can center this. We'll make the font size double what it is right now, and that'll be 32 pixels. Make it bold. And that looks good to me. Again, very simple. And I will just make this padding a little bit tighter. So we got the left column done. The only other thing I'm going to do here is add a little border around the first column. So if we jump into the column settings, I can go over to the design and add a border. We're going to do a light gray one, so again, very subtle. And I'll just add a little bit of padding around it so that the border doesn't butt up against the image. So let's link the top, bottom, left, and right, and I'll do 35 pixels for each of these. So that's it for the content body. And on the sidebar, this is also going to be really simple. I'm just going to do the sidebar module, which we're going to build the sidebar from the built-in WordPress widgets. Right now, this is what WordPress has by default, your search bar, your recent posts, and your recent comments. They also have a little light border on the right, so I'm going to remove that border. I believe I can do that from the design tab. Yeah, show border separator, so I'm going to disable that. And that's all we're going to edit on here. Like I said, we'll jump into the widgets to build that out. So let me save this template. We'll exit out of here, and I'm going to save it here. We can get to the widgets from the appearance menu here. And this is what we were just seeing, our sidebar widgets, which this is using the Gutenberg blocks. Just like the post editor, you can use list view to see what blocks are here. So let me clear all these out. And I'm going to show you something cool with Divi. Everything with Divi is built with shortcodes. So all of these layouts that we're doing here with the theme builder, this is actually generating shortcodes in the back end. And if you want to insert a module, you can actually do it through a shortcode. So we're going to add a button in here because I realized you can't really add a Divi button if you're not using the Divi page builder from a WordPress Gutenberg block. WordPress does have their own button, but it's not going to be styled like your Divi button. So instead, I'm going to just do a shortcode. The shortcode is ET_PB_button. And we can set the button text with this parameter. So I'm setting it to free quote. We set the URL to #CTA. And then we line it center. So this is a pretty cool way to add a button to any of your WordPress posts, pages, or widgets. If you're the curious type, you can figure out how to do this with all the other Divi modules as well. Then we're going to add 2 more areas. We'll add a heading first, and this one is just going to be certifications with an image. We'll center this, and then we'll add an image below it, and this is just our certifications. For a roofer, they usually use one of these 2 companies for the shingles, GAF or Owens Corning. Let's center that, and we can duplicate our heading section. You can do it from this 3-dot icon or hit Control-Shift-D, and we'll move it below. We'll make this one We Accept, and this is going to be the payments that they accept, so we'll add an image with the payment options. And like I mentioned, all these resources, again, will be in the description below. So we'll center this image, and the sidebar is done. We can update this and take a look at one of the inner pages. We'll go to the About page. We have our image banner. The only thing with this is we don't have a featured image set, so let me do that. We'll go back to the About page, and I'll just set a featured image. You can do that from the right side here. You scroll down, and it doesn't really matter what we set that to right now. Let's just update it and take a look. So we can see our quote style. We got our call to action icons, and we can test them out. So we click on any of these, and right now that's not working, and that's because I think I forgot to put the ID on this. Let's go back to the Divi builder really quickly here. I just need to edit the global footer. Let's go to the icon, go to the settings, and you can add an ID from the advanced tab, CSS ID and classes. So we're going to add the CTA ID. You don't put the hashtag in here. That's how you link it up. So let's save that and test it out. We'll refresh, and hopefully that works, and it actually does because I refreshed the link with that #CTA embedded in the link. But now if we click on any of these buttons, it should bring us right down to the quote form. So that's the inner page completely done. We're back here on the theme builder, and we got 2 templates left to build. The next one's going to be for the blog page. So we're going to add this new template, and we'll select the blog page here, create template. So So I'm going to click this three-dot icon, and I'm going to select Disable Global. So now we have a custom body, and it's using the global body as the template. The only change that I'm going to make down here is delete this content, the featured image and the post content, and I'm going to add in a blog element. So let me do it at the bottom, and I'll drag it up. So this is what I want to select right here, the blog module. And over on the Design tab, I'm going to change the font size for the meta information. So let me go to the meta text section. I'm going to set it to 666. We're going to make it uppercase. I'm going to make it bold, and I'm also going to reduce the size down to 13 pixels. So let's save that, and we'll drag it up to the top above our call to action. So let's save this. And another thing that you notice is that on the sidebar, we don't have our images centered here, but they are within the widgets. Sometimes Divi's theme builder does look a little funky when you're looking at content that's built elsewhere, like for instance, the WordPress widgets. Just make sure you check it on the live site. I haven't had any issues with that yet. And we'll save up here, and we can take a look at our blog page now. So there you go with our blog. And the last template that we're going to build is for the single blog post. So if we jump into this Hello World post, then we're going to see it's using our default template. For this one, I'm going to get rid of the image banner, and I'm just going to leave the title up with the content just above it here. And like I said, I'm also going to include the meta information in that. So we can add our last template here, build new template. We're going to select all blog posts. We'll create our template, and I'll do the same thing here, disable the global on the body, even though we're using the global body as the template. Let's jump in here. We'll delete our section, the image banner section. We'll go into our post title and select our elements. So we're going to show the title here, and we're also going to show the meta information. And we'll do the same style on the meta text that we just did on the blog page. So I'll do that real quick and come back to you. The other thing that's shown with the meta is the number of comments. So whether or not you have an active blog, you might just want to hide that. I could do that here from the elements. I'll disable the comment count. And I say that we're done here. Let's save it. Check out our live website. Let's also save the change here first before we do that. And we can refresh our blog page here to see how our new template looks. So I think we're looking good here. Obviously, this is very basic. We don't have any content in here. The other thing is on the photos page, you can create a custom Divi template within the theme builder for the gallery if you'd like. Again, my preference is to use the WordPress blocks, so I would just add a WordPress block gallery. But the rest of these pages are using that default template. You can set the featured image on any of them if you like. And we have our custom homepage layout here. And I think this is a really, really nice business layout. So that's going to wrap this tutorial up. If you got any questions along the way, or if anything was unclear with some of the more technical stuff, just let me know in the comments below. And make sure you check out the description below where you can get the links to download the assets for this tutorial if you'd like to do it yourself. Or you can also download the Divi roofing layout pack that I created for you with all the export files that you'll need to get this layout up and running within just a couple of minutes. If you like what you saw from the tutorial today, make sure you go to websiteprofitcourse.com/Divi to get started with their visual page builder. I converted all my client websites over to Divi within the last year because the theme that I was using stopped putting out updates. So I highly recommend that you use Divi as well. That link will be in the description below, along with a free cheat sheet, 15 tools to start your web design business. If you'd like to take these skills and start freelancing, find local service businesses around you. Every community has roofers, remodelers, landscapers, etc. So you can help these businesses who often have no idea about the online world get their website up and running and start driving them more business. That's how you can start earning a side income and potentially turn that into your full-time gig down the road. And last but not least, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so you get future WordPress tutorials like this one, along with other helpful videos on web design freelancing. Thanks for sticking with me, and I'll link up a few videos here if you want to keep on learning.